Good evening and welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Everett Weber Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to a Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown, Navy. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers that you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You got a question or a comment? Perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that when you're getting on the show, you're well organized and take as little time as possible. But we encourage you to be always forceful with your point. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourself and then you respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem not within our broadcast standards. Again, thank you all for joining us this evening. Some of you would have heard about it. Others who are just happening to be in at this time, this early start for the next couple of sessions. We will be carrying a town hall meeting for the Unity team starting about 8 o'clock. So we'll be standing by to join them. So what we can get in, we get in, and then we will listen, because I'm sure everybody will agree the campaign is now on. And remember that I told you that the pundits and the analysts told me months ago that if you think that 2015 was rough, put your seatbelts on. Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Rebel. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts and the Glorious. And a well-deserved greeting to the people of Nevis, those who would listen to us on the World Wide Web and throughout the Caribbean Basin. And also we've got the other medium, Facebook and YouTube. Well, this is Black History Month, and I have to big up some of those black historical people like James Emmanuel Eliot, one of our stalwarts in teaching, James Emmanuel Kelly, another stalwart in teaching, Teacher Myrtle Bishard, another stalwart in teaching, Teacher Gerard Brown, and these are the people who in fact did wonders to not only the Brown Hillians, but to the surrounding communities, with reference to where many of us are. Pick up Johnny Howell, and most of all, Eardley Liebert, the father of Dr. Lyndon Liebert and Bobby Liebert. Those are some of my heroes of the past, and they have propelled me to where I am today.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Weber, and a very pleasant good evening to my colleagues around the table. Good evening to those who are listening and viewing this edition of Let's Talk Tonight. I want to say good evening to those persons who are in our various hospitals throughout St. Kitts and Nevis, and to those who are further afield seeking medical attention. I hope that they would be, up and about very shortly. The help of our doctors and our nurses and the auxiliary staff, and certainly with prayers and divine intervention. Good evening to those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life. I want to offer them my congratulations, and I hope that they are having a wonderful evening. To those families, Weber, who are in mourning tonight, I want to take this opportunity to offer my condolences, and I hope that they would remember either their family member, friend, with fond memories as they reflect and ponder on them. Weber, it's indeed good to be back here tonight, much earlier edition, and I want to apologize for Mr. Hobson. He's fine, but he just could not make it tonight. And today, Weber, was indeed nomination day for the by-election in St. Thomas's Parish, and I believe that went extremely well. Thanks, Webo, for the invitation once again.
Dr. Patricia Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening, Webo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the entire listening and viewing audiences. Thanks for the invitation to join you tonight, Webo.
Conrad Nye Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webo, and good evening to my colleagues around the table, to your hard-working staff here at Fawn Radio. Good evening to everyone in tune to this program, my friends all around the world. I say hail up and tune in. We're a little early this evening, so get on board and, of course, let's communicate, Webo, about the things that are affecting the people. I'm happy to be here once again, and I'm looking forward to a spirited discussion this evening.
Okay, we got a couple of things which we can deal with. We shared the time up amongst them. First of all, Mr. Brand had mention of the nomination day, which was today, and you know, not everybody is abreast of exactly what is happening, but briefly, the seat vacated by Mr. Parry as he retired from active politics. He had gone, what is it, 2 years? 2 years into the seat, so somebody will have to be elected to fill that vacant seat for the duration of the time, 3 years if it goes full. The Nevis Reformation Party has nominated Keith Scarborough.
No, CCM.
CCM. The CCM has nominated Keith Scarborough, and the Nevis Reformation Party has nominated Cleone Stapleton, and what's the other name?
Simmons.
Okay, so those are the two contestants nominated today. Now, Brand, you were mentioning you want to go ahead?
Yes, Webo, I just wanted to congratulate Keith King Descendant Scarborough for stepping forward once again and being nominated as the CCM candidate. I also want to offer congratulations to the NRP candidate. I believe that she has sought to venture into this. I certainly want to wish her all the best. But Webo, I believe that I want to say to the people of St. Thomas's that this is what I call another golden opportunity for them to elect someone to represent them, not only in Parliament but also in Cabinet. I believe that this would give them the opportunity to have another voice on their behalf. And I'm certainly using this rostrum and this medium to encourage the people of St. Thomas's to show their support behind Mr. Descendant this time around. I believe that he's heart in the right place. I've heard him on the campaign, and I've listened to all the things that he said he wants to do. I believe that if he get half of them do, he would probably bankrupt the government. But I'm hoping for the best, and I'm wishing him every success in this. But I think that's the man that I know. He always tried to aim high. He always tried to set high standard. If you know him in Calypso, you know he always keep coming back at you and coming back at you. Win, lose, or draw, he's back again. And this is just the mark of the man. I certainly want to wish him every success, and I believe that this time around, Webo, he would deliver this seat for the people of St. Thomas's and for the Concerned Citizen Movement Party.
While Mr. Scarborough is fairly knowledgeable well known to the Nevision public, Mrs. Stapleton is not as well known. I heard a clip from her, I think our news department did an interview. So that is the most really I've heard of her. But she is a lawyer by profession, which suggests to me that she is supposed to, by at least her training, be able to be articulate and so on and so forth. What is also interesting about this seat is that it is a stronghold of the Nevis Reformation Party. And Dr. Bartlett, I don't know, you get the impression that against that backdrop, the excitement and so on is not being generated?
Well, I'm not feeling it. Maybe the people in St. Thomas is feeling it, because of course that's where the activities would be focused at this point in time. So I'm hoping for her, for both of them actually, whoever have supporters to come out, that they would come out and support, because it is important. Like Mr. Brand said, it is an important. And I don't know why Mr. Brand, he has 4. I don't know why he needs another one. I personally like to see a little opposition. But it would be interesting. I've seen quite a bit on social media. I've been getting, like emails. I've never gotten them before, and I think that is, something that they keep coming at me. I'm getting these emails from NRP, different activities that they're having. So I guess some excitement may be there, but it's not in the not necessarily in the format that we are accustomed to. So I think they're exploring different avenues to reach people, and maybe, like I said, maybe the excitement is there because Mr. Brand said that today's activity went pretty well. So I guess maybe it is there, but we're just not feeling it because it doesn't extend to the rest of the population, I guess, outside of St. Thomas's.
You think, Naya, perhaps because it is a seat that, has been a stronghold of the Nevis Reformation Party, because we had a by-election a few years ago, and that was to fill the vacant seat left by Malcolm Gishad. And that had created some excitement, because maybe it is a seat that is not as safe, so to speak. Maybe that could be the reason. Naya, what do you think?
I suppose, Webo, I suppose the people think it's not going to be a keenly contested election, there. And I could understand that because the truth is I haven't been hearing much at all about it. But let me use this opportunity, Webo, to congratulate Mr. Parry and on his selection. I think it's a very worthwhile selection, and I don't know the young lady very well at all, but I believe for some reason that she would be very significant to the group. She has been compared to personalities like Victor J. Martin when he returned to join the NRP. And so when one think of that, one think of her being seriously very relevant to the group, and looking forward to probably achieve or attain a higher position within that party, because I think there's still a bit of a, from the public point of view, a kind of headless chicken circumstance as it relates to the party. I think they're still searching for that personality to lead. So I think the young lady, giving her talent and given the fact that she's going to be a member of parliament, she has a future within the party. But there's one thing I want to say, Webo. I hope that she's not the type who will be in Nevis because she's an elected representative or a member of parliament, and as soon as she loses, she abandoned Nevis. I find a few have done that, and Victor J himself have done that, and I wonder why, because I'm saying, yes, you come on stage, you're here, and the minute you're off stage, you don't even fight to go back on stage. You go on forever, and I question how much they really like Nevis and commit themselves. Have committed themselves to the betterment of Nevis. So even though she's compared to Victor J. Martin, I hope that wouldn't be her sequel. I hope that she would have a long and bright future in Nevis politics and of course be of some dominant force, Webo. I believe the NRP is going to win the seat. No doubt about that. I believe the people of St. Thomas is going to come out and fulfill Mr. Parry's desire. And to me, that would be the outcome. And maybe for that reason, Webo, the fact that the people think it won't be keenly contested, people have not shown much interest in it, but I would advise the people of St. Thomas to come out and of course exercise that fundamental right, because if you don't, you strengthen the other side in some way or the other. And so it is something that, of course, we know our forefathers have fought for. So make use of that opportunity to really have an input in, as it relates to those who govern Nevis. Well,
Yeah, no, now you made an interesting point, and probably I made a note of it. Maybe down the road I'll remind you of it because I find it interesting. But I just wanted to make a point because I think Dr. Bartlett had made a suggestion, or somebody, I think Mr. Brand, had said that if a lot of these things that the candidate is proposing to do, they get those, they will perhaps send us someplace else. But I was thinking as I'm listening a lot of these speakers and candidates and so on, not just in this by-election, but the federal election which is coming up, which we'll probably talk a little bit about as well. And I keep saying, I like to interview a lot of these guys, right? But things have changed. As Dr. Bartlett said, things have changed a lot because most of the people who run for office now, well, in the 90s and so on and so forth, we used to have the opportunity where, we can get to interview them. But everybody now has their own platform. And when they want to dialogue, they talk at us and not with us. And it's a difference when you can take certain questions. But most of the intercourse now involves the control of the candidates and so on and so forth. And there's certain things when I can't change it, I said, well, you know what I'm saying, but I really like to interview some, if not all of them. And I guarantee you, we all will be better off as a result. Edric.
Bravo. I probably would like to get a little more from Mr. Brand regarding the candidate. Of course, today I met
Well,
somebody.
ask him the questions because we don't have, so ask him the questions you want to ask him.
Well, Mr. Brand, of course, knows a little more, and he probably can
Or you mean
articulate.
just on his own?
Yes, he can articulate. And
But he doesn't know what you want to know. Mr. Brand, you know what he wants to know?
I'm not a mind reader.
Okay, so in
Well,
the
then
interest
let-
of time, right, if you got something you'd like to know, let's ask him.
I met a fellow today, and he made a statement just as Mr. Brand made with reference to the candidate for the CCM. And I was really taken aback because the fellow is really gung-ho, and he feels that based on this and that's involvement in the community, this and that is going to take the seat. That's what the fellow told me today. And he actually elaborated regarding the amount of legwork he has already done, and again, the relationship that he has with people, and he's down to earth with people. I know the lady who is going to run on the NRP ticket. I have not known her with the public exposure. When you make a complete comparison with reference to Keith Scarborough, this and that, and therefore we have two candidates. One, of course, who has been in the community at the length and breadth of the community in the St. Thomas's Parish. The lady, of course, is well known, I would imagine, based on her discipline, because most people would like to know lawyers and get to know lawyers very quickly. So the statement that the fellow made today was right up Mr. Brand's alley, or as the case might be, I do not know, and Mr. Brand, but of course, I can't tell you if they know each other, Mr. Brand and the fellow, but he told me he's from that district, and they have done a lot of work, and he feels that this and that is going to take the seat. That's all I can say at this juncture.
But you have run politics, so you know that it's just what it is. At all.
A talk, is that?
Yes.
Well, I can't subscribe to that notion because I know that in the past, in the jurisdiction where I lived, there was a candidate who came up against good candidates.
So let me ask this: you think that the seat is more people will vote more along the party line as opposed to the individual?
Well, usually the party machinery, depending on how well-oiled it is.
So why do you think that if you think the party machinery is well-oiled and so on in this case, you don't think that it will be along party line this particular vote? Mostly?
Not necessarily, because you got two
So
machineries.
so you think that
And
based
they're
on this,
well-oiled.
no, so you think that based on this particular election, the individuals will make the difference?
Should. The individuals should make the difference. On the one hand, you got a machinery of the NRP.
Okay. No,
And
you
the
said
seat is
the
well-
individuals.
is well
the
established.
individual will make the
And
candidate.
on the other hand, you've got a well-oiled machinery on the CCM. And on that same hand, you've got this and that Scarborough, who has gone length and breadth of the constituency over a number of years. So when you look at the comparison, barring the academic qualifications, both got a good shot at it using the machinery that's available to them.
Dr. Bartlett, in this particular case, you think that the bulk of the vote will go as
Where
a
it usually
result
goes.
of, and as a result of the party as opposed to the candidate?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Brand, you were
Well,
saying something?
I was intimately involved in the 2013 election and campaign, and St. Thomas's was a very hostile territory. Kind of same feeling in 2015 federal election. 2017 we did not get that level of hostility, but no, much of it was still there. And in our canvassing this time around, we are not sensing that great level of hostility. Many more persons who would have virtually ran us from in front of their door and so on and so forth are actually standing and listening and thinking and considering, and I think that I have said here that the Joseph Parry factor, who is not a candidate, will have a lot to do in this election. Our sense is that it is our feeling, and we are expecting that Keith Descender Scarborough will win this seat, because the level of hostility is not there, and persons are more warmer and more receptive to the idea and to the consideration
So
of.
you think then that in this particular runoff, this by-election, the candidates that are representing the different parties will have a lot in terms of
absolutely, Webo.
because sometimes in certain cases, as Dr. Bartlett had mentioned, when a seat is safe, sometimes it hardly matters which candidate
that is true.
is put up, and that is why I'm
true.
trying to ask whether or not if one thinks that in this case the candidate matters a lot in terms of how the seat may go. Niall, what do you think?
Sadly, Webu, I don't think so. It will go along party lines. But Webu, I'm here thinking, if we have a political party in power, the same circumstance with four seats in the parliament, and they're doing a good job. Well, a good job. the propensity to give them a fifth one would be easier, would be higher than if they're not doing such a good job. The question is, are they doing such a good job in this little scenario which I'm painting? And the question also is whether or not the people of Kangrong are really concerned about whether or not they're doing a good job, or just blind to the fact that, look, we're going to vote for Mr. Parry and that's it. And I feel like it's more the latter. We're going to vote for Mr. Parry.
Okay, on that note again, because you mentioned it again, what I wanted to point out, because you said that Mr. Parry made a great selection,
Yes.
right?
I think
And
so.
the reason why I pointed out is going to be important, because sometime in the future, we will be, when we mention an action like that, some persons might then begin to say that that was not democratic or fair or something to that degree. We can hold it there, but I guarantee you it's going to come up. Because you hear what you said? Mr. Parry made a great selection.
Okay.
And indeed he did,
I'm
but
following you.
they
Following
couldn't. Yeah, but I don't know what process they went through after that. But I know that I would have heard him on the airwaves explaining that he said who he preferred, and they were supposed to go to the due process, because sometimes it matters to some people when the process is followed, and sometimes it doesn't matter, because I've heard things on the other side that, process not being followed either. So I don't know why this one would be relevant and not that one.
No,
But,
wait, you hold it there. Let me clarify something. All I did, I said I just wanted to highlight
Yes.
that what Naya said, right?
Yes.
And then we can continue the discussion, right? And bring in all the other factors. But to suggest, right, certain things, I just want to make certain things clear. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I wasn't trying to suggest that you were suggesting anything. I was just reacting to the whole, saga. But interestingly, though, I would have been hearing, and we're already hearing things, because this is a small place. I've been hearing that there's a lady, on the other side, on the CCM side, who's showing interest in, participating at this level as well. And I'm saying that, to me, would have maybe tested, I could be wrong, maybe that might have tested, the individuality as opposed to the party, concept that, you were exploring just now. It would have been interesting. And I thought maybe that might have been a good strategy. Mind you, I don't know much about politics and how these guys play the game, but I thought that might have been an interesting dynamic. If you were to run the lady who they claim is interested at this point, it would have tested the waters and see, maybe put up a woman against a woman, and maybe it might not have been a safe seat afterwards. But I still think, though, that it's going to be a safe seat for NRP.
Okay. Let's. Any other thing on that? The other thing, apart from the election itself, one of the things that I've heard some people were asking me, and I suppose maybe because of where I work and stuff like that, but one of the things I know is up for discussion and concern as well is election night. Do you think the results will come in? Will be here, until certain times and so on. And I find, sometimes, I don't know. I'm hoping that the authorities can give a commitment to the public that it will be done in a
Speedy fashion.
speedy fashion.
We expect better, Webo. We expect better, honestly. It's been better throughout the last few years. With the
Really?
in particular, the supervisor of election has been very active.
Which one was better?
Well, this one,
we're
the
talking
current
in
one-
terms of time.
Well, the
We're
current
speaking
one
in
has
terms
been
of time.
communicating. I'm up to believe that he's going to get things, you know, he's going to improve on things really on that particular night.
I think so.
I'm up to believe that. He's been very active, I think, in that role. And I think he wants to have a good reference. He wants to be seen in that light, that he can revolutionize the whole thing. And of course, we don't have to be here all night. I think that would be fundamental to the whole process.
Yes.
Yeah, Rebel, I expect that we'll get all the results within an hour.
Oh,
I'm
really?
doing maths. Yeah, I'm doing just basic maths, Rebel. We used to sit here for 5 hours, you know, to get to
Five?
5. I'm just saying. If
Oh.
12.
I'm saying if
Oh,
we used to
okay.
sit
Or
here for 5
hypothetical. Hypothetical. Okay.
hypothetical. If we are sitting here for 5 hours to get for 5 constituencies, then you know it sounds to me like we should just sit here for 1 hour, you know, to get from one fifth of that.
But the truth is, you know, those things are done simultaneously.
Yes.
You know, so in other words, when St. John's is being counted, it's not that you have to wait until St. John's is counted to do St. Thomas's and then wait and then to do St. James.
Right.
But it is always something, and to me, you know, through the years, you get the impression that maybe not just in terms of elections. We had a discussion today, and maybe myself included, but people in authority in certain positions have this sort of thinking. I don't even want to use attitude because sometimes that come across real, you know, harsh. But have this sort of thinking that they owe you nothing because we're in charge and we do what we feel and you must accept it. You know? So here we are with this particular situation, and the authorities know that the public crave and the desire for an early count.
Yeah, but I could only see that if we were in. I really don't see that happening in St. George's, and I don't see it happening in St. Thomas's. You know, traditionally would have had safe seats. If it were to come down to a close contest in that area, then you may have people requesting recounts and all the rest of it. But I can't see it happening in St. Thomas's. Mr. Brand, I know, made reference to the lack of or the dampening down of the hostility in that area towards CCM, and I could very well understand that. I mean, when Malcolm lost, I don't think that there was any hostility directed towards him in St. John's. But he lost, and after a while, people in a certain area, and I don't know if maybe the people in that area might be intimidated now, or maybe because the place is a quiet place, much more quiet place now. Everybody called truce, and everybody trying to live happy with one another. I don't know what the factor is really, why there isn't, and I'm not trying to suggest that there ought to be hostility towards people when they come out to campaign or to do house to house.
Or maybe, Dr. Bartlett, they're learning that it's not worth it to fall out with people and curse people on behalf of politicians.
Maybe that too, and then maybe just that, sometimes why kick against the pricks? I mean, if Mr. Brand were to come to me, I wouldn't be hostile to Mr. Brand because they control government, and sometimes, like it or not, sometimes they themselves, if you are hostile towards them, don't expect that it's going to be an easy walk for you. And,
Okay.
and that might be the factor over there. You might be intimidated, I don't know.
All right, let's move to the federal election. Obviously, well, by law, it's close. So let's say that. But you get the feeling, though, that it's real close because the fact that we're making way for town hall meetings live is an indication. And that's one of the ways, at least from one side, that we'll be able to get certain information in terms of the campaign and the proposals and all that and so on and so forth.
True, that is usually a good measure. Once you start seeing people start lining up, you start lining up, and this is the season. The season has started. Well, I have not really heard an official announcement yet as to the open season, but the season has started, and I don't know what the end point is, and I'm hoping that it would be soon enough, and we have to consider the coronavirus, the impact that might have too on travel. And so I would imagine that if you're counting on people from abroad coming, you better do it soon because the window of opportunity is kind of closing in.
In terms of the style, because I just mentioned town hall meetings, that seems to be one of the things that people do a lot. But how effective you think that our forum is in terms of the people who attend and the questions asked and so on? You think it's a very effective way? Naya?
Well, it's a way, and I suppose there's some plus to it, Weber, but usually it's party supporters go to those things. If CCM is keeping it, then you find more CCM people. If NRP people go, they face a little bit of hostility and so forth. But I suppose if it's broadcast live, it's a way to communicate to the whole public, general public, everyone. And so it's of importance to the whole process, I would think, Weber.
And especially if you were to broadcast on a Tuesday night or on a Wednesday night, you already have you already have an audience there, and you reach the people in the diaspora with your propaganda. I mean, otherwise than that, people might not be tuning in ordinarily, to listen to you. But I think it serves a useful purpose, because there's some people who don't want to be committed. They want to hear what's going on, but they don't want to go out and see people, have people see them attending an NRP meeting or see people, attending a CCM meeting.
But what of these things being challenged, though? Because, it is one thing to be getting the information, but I'm talking about being able to challenge for the general public. Because, for instance, when we're here and a particular issue comes up, Naya says a particular point, and I say, well, let me challenge you on that, Naya. And then you begin to see whether or not the point that Naya make, having been challenged and tested, can it stand? So that is the point that I'm making. We have. Yes.
One will wish, Webo, that those things can really happen in a town hall meeting, because it would aid the whole process.
But you just said, in terms of the town hall meetings, though, is mostly party supporters.
I know.
But how likely will it for them to challenge?
One would hope, because it's hostility, believe it or not. I mean, people would have some fear going into, PAM people would have fear going into Labour and NRP. And to stand up to ask certain questions, you're not going to be treated fairly.
Right.
Because it's going to seem like a confrontation, but the thing is, maybe the media could take that though and invite themselves to such, such a forum. I mean, maybe it's time the same questions you would like to ask Webo. Maybe it would be opportune time for you to go tonight and ask a question.
What makes you think that I wouldn't receive, or the media, let me not just use me, the media would not receive the same treatment?
I never said that you wouldn't receive the same treatment. I'm saying you get the opportunity to cross-examine, just like you said you would like the opportunity. Here is the opportunity.
But what you're doing it is again in their terms, because as Naya said, when Naya was speaking about the hostility, I don't think he meant from the politicians, I think he meant from some of the supporters and so on and so forth, and the environment that has been created.
But I've never heard, because it has not been challenged. But I don't imagine that a riot is going to break out if the media were to go, or people from the press were to go to these meetings and ask the questions. Because if they're not coming to you and we need the answers, then you have to go there. Because really, the meeting is just about propaganda. That's what it is about. And we need to recognize that that's what it is, and you don't expect that they want to be challenged, really.
That word propaganda, Webo, I do not really understand why Pat wants to use it over and over. I believe that...
Because that's what it is.
Well, I don't subscribe to that notion.
Well, you use your word, I use mine.
But I don't, it depends on how you, it is how...
It's information.
No, it depends on how you interpret the word.
But propaganda is propaganda.
Well,
you know what propaganda means.
Right. And to me, it simply means I'm putting out my side of the story the way I want it.
Yep.
So what is so hostile about that?
But if you put out a story, Webo...
What I'm saying is, sometimes in the news department, for instance, in media houses, we would say, you have to challenge the stuff. You don't just send out people's propaganda, right? And it is not a derogatory term in that instance. So I'm just saying, well, Doctor, I'm not, well, I was just saying that's how I read Dr. Bartlett.
Well, let me say this.
Yeah, Dr. Bartlett, am I correct?
Once you use the word propaganda, somebody's going to challenge you that you know it is not wholesome.
Okay, by propaganda, what do you think it means?
It means that you're sending information out there that may not be specific, and consequently, you would have hostility. If you're disseminating information and it is truthful, then you don't label it as propaganda.
Well, I look at the
No spin rumor, what are you trying to show me?
no the word propaganda, the meaning of the well,
What do you mean?
well, you know you have the meaning of propaganda up there, right?
And what does it say?
Read it.
I don't have
communication that is aimed at enforcing, influencing the attitude of a community towards some case or position so as to benefit oneself or one's group.
So what is wrong with that?
So that is exactly what I
Well,
just
well,
said.
That's nothing is wrong with that's what Dr.
I'm glad I didn't have to go to Google for that one.
You said that and you make your case.
Already did.
well, I look at the town hall as a medium.
The word influence?
But when you
But that's
make your
what it-
points here, Mr. Stanley, what are you trying to do?
No, Webber, I make my point, and if whoever wants to take it, they take it as how they want it.
So
But
you're
I-
not trying to influence them.
Not,
that,
no, Webber.
So work with me. When you make a point that a particular item is a particular decision is a good investment, you're not trying to persuade me it is?
Webber, you're supposed to use your logic.
I'm asking you
No.
when you do.
No.
Okay, Mr.
No.
Brand, you wanted to say something.
Yes, well, I look at the town hall as one medium through which the well, I think both sides often does it to try and get their message out. Sitting government will try and use it to give an account of their stewardship, where the country is, where they hope to take the country. It also affords not only the media but also the ordinary man and woman on the street an opportunity to ask their questions. I think Naya is absolutely correct, though, that oftentimes with these town halls, not many persons from the opposition side often attend. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the media to get in and ask themselves, ask the persons who are making those presentations some hard questions. And I've seen it happen before where town hall have been kept and the media would have gone in and asked some questions that, you know, and some of the answers and so on, we really can't repeat them here on Van Radio. But the reality is, Webber, it's just another medium through which that both sides use to get across their message. And some are more effective than others, and I think that at times it comes across as I don't necessarily I would just say, Webber, that it's a medium that both sides uses to get across their message.
Yep, and that is what we call it, propaganda. So, Webber, I would like to invite you to the next town hall meeting that they're having so we can have some balanced questions, because, like you say, usually you tune into these things, and if you tune
I would
into
like
the
to
first
invite
one,
them at
They gonna come.
You know, they're not going to come.
They gonna come.
Oh,
Well, let me just make one last point, Webber.
They will come, man. They will come.
There are politicians who definitely, specifically, and strategically hire propagandists in order to get their message out the way they want it. And when I say the way they want it, to somewhat skew the whole thing. And I am saying, at some point in time, we should be able to get the whole truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth.
But you get everything else but the truth most of the times. If
No,
you're
no,
gonna
no,
listen
don't
to
agree.
politicians.
Don't subscribe to that notion at all.
Well, that is your view, but I think a lot of times we get everything but
But
the truth.
that word is a heavy skewed word, propaganda.
because you don't want to accept the meaning. It doesn't fit you to accept the meaning. But take some time and think about it, because
No,
the
I don't have
meaning
to think about
reflects
it. It
the
is-
meaning reflects just exactly what propaganda is, and that
it
is what
has
people
its own-
revert into, and it is a lot of times associated with politics. You know, most other people don't even bother to use propaganda. You know, but politicians, that is that is their bread and butter, that is their go-to. And I was trying to make the point that you listen to one, and if you don't have the intervention from people who really want to get to the bottom of the truth, you keep hearing the same thing over and over and over, and that is propaganda. That's why I want to invite Webo to go to the next town hall meeting that would be kept. I don't care who is keeping it. I just want to be able to hear more of the truth and get a little bit of probing on the issues, because a lot of times we hear the same thing over and over. You hear the one tonight, you don't have to listen to the other one tomorrow night, because it's going to be the same thing, sometimes verbatim.
If I know a group is going to bring forth something as propaganda, I am not going to be there.
In the definition of propaganda that you just read, did it say that the material has to, for it to be propaganda, has to be false?
The word influence.
No, the question.
word false was not used.
Melissa, if you're hearing me, please go and take that thing down off the wall and bring it for me. Let me read it for the public. In the meantime, if you can help me, in the definition of propaganda, did it say that information, in order to be defined as propaganda, must be false? Or
No,
must
he
not be
didn't
true?
say that.
So you are inserting that.
We understand English, and we can.
No,
through
no, I'm
influences-
speaking, when you say we, you're encompassing
Well,
Dr. Bartlett and
excluding
Mr.
you
Brannan, so?
maybe other members of the panel.
No, not me. I'm asking you for your view and what you are doing.
My thing,
Thank you.
Pat uses the word truth just a while ago, and it is so nice to hear it.
But
You want to hear the truth?
yeah, but what I'm trying to say in the definition, right? You are seemingly saying that because it says propaganda, right? Because it says propaganda, you're trying to imply that it is untrue.
Yes,
It
yes.
is make it, but it doesn't say. Here what it says: a form propaganda is a form of communication. Let me see if you can pick it up. Is a form of communication that is aimed at influencing the attitude of a community towards some cause or position so as to benefit oneself or one's group. So a political party they have a town hall meeting, for instance, and they have some plans and programs for the community or the country. And they aim to influence these people by saying, well, okay, vote for me because these are good.
Oneself
Things
or
for-
one's group.
So what is wrong with that? That's what I'm asking, I'm asking what is wrong with that and what is bad about it. Because if I'm making a case about something, that's what I do. So we're just saying that sometimes the connotation is like a fellow said once he became a Christian. And as he goes to the meetings and to church, his father asked him, how is it? And so on. He says, great. I'm learning a lot. And he said, well, like what? He said, one thing I've learned, I do not want to be a farmer. And the father asked him why. And he said, because I do not want to reap what I sow. You see, you laugh, but what happens in the connotation, and in that particular instance, a lot of people, if I were to say to Dr. Bartlett, you'll reap what you sow, she likely will get upset because she might think I mean it in a negative sense. But it is pure. Because
Well, no.
you can sow things that are good.
Neutral.
When that statement is aired or thrown at somebody,
A negative attitude.
it is designed to tell them, I'm warning you, you will reap what you sow. And you can't tell me that you can't infer from that statement, whether written or
Let me ask you this. Do you normally do good deeds?
Webo. I'm
Do
bent on
you normally
Yes,
do
I do.
good deeds?
Yes.
You expect to, as a result of those good deeds, reap what you sow?
you will reap it.
Yes or
And
no?
You will reap it, but you can
I'm
also put it
asking
this way.
you.
That
I'm asking you a yes or no question. As a result of doing those good deeds, do you expect to reap what you sow?
I will reap good deeds. I will reap good deeds.
So what's bad
that's a
about
yes.
that?
I didn't use the word sow. I will reap good deeds. So I cut it in half, and you should be able to be guided by what I just said.
The good thing is that when I get feedback from the public, they will tell me they got it. Even when I don't have Ted as my go-to judge, the public will say, you had him.
Well, you know, sometimes many times he's dead wrong. Dead wrong. But I'm saying to you, you will know that the good deeds will come right back.
Now, all I'm saying is that we generally look at it as something bad. But it says you will reap what you sow. And it means whether it be good deeds or evil deeds. Correct?
Yep. It's neutral, like Naya says, it's neutral.
Well,
You ever weep when you
well,
sow. I mean, that's just a
well,
fact.
well.
So if you were to say that to me, I weep when I saw, I just smile because I know that I only sow good seeds.
So there you go.
Easy.
But Stanley now would get upset.
No,
You tell
I'm
me you go weep what he said and he get all upset.
I'm saying
Why?
to you,
Why?
you
Why?
would say that to somebody, and you will only say that to somebody when you know they're not sowing good seeds and they're not doing good deeds.
So why
you will reap what you sow.
do you think
I know so.
in the story that I told, why do you think that the youngster going to church, learning these things, saying to the father, I won't be a farmer because I do not want to reap what I sow?
Well, I'll tell you, the fellow was uppity up in terms of intelligence.
Oh,
Because-
really?
Oh, yes.
Because what he said.
Because he was able to throw back at his father something that his father said, but wait, you're thinking. I don't want to be a farmer. But why don't you want to be a farmer? I don't want to reap what I sow.
Because he's doing bad deeds.
And he's sowing bad deeds, and therefore he will not be a farmer too. And consequently, he will. The seeds that he will sow. The seeds that he will sow. Based on what the
I
father
think,
told
Mr.
him.
Stanley, you just feel that it's a long time you have not disconnected me, so you just
Well,
tell
listen, you
yourself you
get
will.
disconnected all the time, Webo. I'm saying to you, the fellow knew that he was sowing bad seeds, and he will sow bad seeds, and therefore
So that's why he don't want to be a farmer.
they doesn't want to be a farmer.
No, if I'm in the mood tomorrow morning, I'm going to
it
do
the
a
other way.
little wake up. You know, tomorrow I'll test out one or two of my listeners
It
to
doesn't
see.
mean that they would be able to have the aptitude to understand what you're telling them, you know. But I'm telling you, the father told the fellow, well, what did you learn? And the fellow said, one thing I learned, I don't want to be a farmer.
But you're repeating the same thing Rebel said. You're not
Right,
adding
but the
anything.
fellow
You're
knows
not
that he
adding
was sowing bad
anything new.
seeds. All right?
Oh dear.
You sow good seeds?
No, the young man heard that you will reap what you sow. Those are neutral, is a neutral phrase or whatever.
No way.
And so he just said, well, he don't want to be a farmer because he don't want to reap what he sow.
Because he's sowing bad seeds.
They don't want to go to that nth degree.
You need to add
Mr.
that caveat
Minister.
to it, you know?
Yes, they don't want to go to the nth degree. They try to avoid it.
Well, from what the son says, one can deduce that the father was implying or responding to something that was not.
No,
good
no,
for the son.
no,
The father
no.
didn't introduce that, you know.
No, what happened
Father
was,
didn't say
remember, is the son who brought
Son
up
is
the topic, you know.
Exactly.
He became a Christian. And what happened was, you know the story about the story about you will reap what you sow, right? And so, who normally sows? A farmer.
Farmer,
It was
right.
about
And the fellow was quite
So,
clever.
so the guy now took a sort of literal,
Yeah.
and then, you know, figured, well, it's got to be something bad. You know what I'm saying? But the most important thing about it is that is one of the things that make people think. And then it's always intriguing to see how different people look at it. And as I said, just like with this stuff, propaganda, so go, as you leave here, Mr. Stanley, understand that propaganda is one of those same sort of things, right? One of those same, you'll reap what you sow, depends on how you look at it.
Whether it's negative.
So, okay, well, let me ask you this. You would not communicate to a group or a community by speaking with them and trying to get them to see your point of view in terms of how you will go about getting a problem solved. You wouldn't do that?
If they have the aptitude in terms of logic, and you say it, you lay it out, some who's got the aptitude to figure it out will figure it out logically. And those who don't have the aptitude to figure it out will never figure it out. Just like we have people in this community.
But I
Some
don't
going
think
on the wrong
I don't.
way and they'll
but-
never figure it
yeah,
out.
but I don't think you're figuring out what I said.
What I'm trying to tell you, Weber,
Okay, let me see if this person wants to tell me something. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Herbert, and to everyone there.
Good evening.
Mr. Herbert, I'd like to say a little quick, but I'd like to just something to you. On the first page of the Constitution, after it had reference that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, number 7 says your right is being protected from being treated inhumane. So what I did, I Googled that word, inhumane treatment. And what I found, some of the things is quite troubling. Take, for instance, the construction that went on at the school, and then children were still attending the school. That's inhumane treatment. Because part of the law even reference as far as how you treat a person, even at a daycare center. And part of inhumane treatment is psychologically. And every night, every weekend you have, during the week, you have this show. One thing keep coming up for you is how fearful people are of calling it and speaking their mind. That's inhumane treatment. That's the Constitution.
Let me ask you this. We don't have a lot of time, but let me ask you this. So therefore, if somebody meets me and says, me just afraid to talk to you, no? Something is wrong with me?
No, it's not wrong. Their constitutional right.
No. So, okay, so if somebody tells me that they're fearful of me,
No, not fearful.
okay, what?
Like what you've been saying, like on the show. People will meet you and say, must say this and say that because they are fearful of calling in.
Okay,
There might be repercussions.
right. So, therefore what?
That's the psychological way of doing to people. So that is the infringement.
So somebody has done something to them if they're fearful of calling in.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is infringing on their constitutional right. With a lot of people.
Okay, so in an example like that, what do you think should be done?
The
So
Constitution-
what do you think, work with me, what do you think should be done so that those
Let me tell you
people,
what the Constitution says. One should take steps to stop or prevent it from happening.
like steps like what?
Like join it to the person that their constitutional right has been infringed and that the caution should be taken by going to a lawyer, asking that about what the gentleman who is in charge of the law, the Attorney General, look into it. Because what you notice is that people is aware only of certain section of the Constitution if their right is being infringed.
Okay,
But
all right,
others' rights are.
yeah, okay,
Thank you very much.
all right, okay, good. You know, you keep hearing, these are some of the sort of buzzwords and phrases that we hear all the time. They're real, Matthew. But we also have to appreciate that the price of freedom is not free. And a lot of the times, I keep telling people all the time, that what you see other people with are some persons who are not as fearful. They pay the price. They pay the price. You know, when they talk, I mean, Dr. Bartlett, Naya, and just about everybody here have told experiences of when they come and express certain viewpoint, they get, you know, squeezed and stuff like that. And that is part of the price. People curse me all the time, right? If I have a problem with the telephone, and I get frustrated, and then I use the medium I have to say it, then they spite me. Right? If people hear about it, they laugh. But it's part of the cost you have to pay to get maybe the thing done. I mean, you might argue, you shouldn't have to pay that cost. But it is what it is.
Yeah, Rebel, I understand where the caller is coming from, but all I would say to him is that you must assert your right. If you don't assert your right, then you don't have a case. You can't say, I'm not going to speak because my fundamental rights, you know, nobody can stop you from speaking. Speak, and then you deal with the consequences, and then you have a case to go forward. But your right is not breached if you decide, I'm not going to assert my right. You just sit back, say, I'm not going to assert my right. And then what you want to change, because you can't just have this phantom idea that, you know, somebody's after you, because you may say something and nobody, does anything to you. So assert your rights. I mean, and it is when you decide, if you cannot get your right asserted, then you have a case.
Okay. Can we make a quick point globally? And Edric is when it comes to global affairs and politics, right? Where are we heading, Edric? Russia is helping 2 candidates, they say. Where are we heading?
Well, I'm a Westerner, and I could tell you that Russia has been playing this game for a long time. And Reagan brought them to their knees, and Trump doesn't really understand where Putin stands, nor Kim Jong-un where he stands, and all the other dictators. What Reagan has done, Putin is trying to get it undone. Putin is trying to reestablish the Union of Soviet of Socialist Republics. And he got a poodle, Trump, who doesn't really understand global politics, global power.
But if the argument is that he is helping him, what kind of, to him, would he wouldn't be that name what you're calling him, would he?
Sure, because he should know that he's got a certain amount of power within his own hand to tell Putin, no, I don't need your help, and therefore I want to ensure that
well, on
you
the other
follow me.
hand, it is also said, let's use the word alleged, that he is helping Sanders. Sanders, he was informed about a month ago, but he said nothing, right?
Well, again, self-serving.
Okay, so then why are you so harsh on Donald?
The thing is that they're supposed to see Putin as whom he is. And both of them are blind men. They do not understand the enormous power of the United States of America.
But
as a result,
but wouldn't
you have to begin to use it.
But wouldn't
tell
you?
Putin, hey, look, you're not in our league.
But wouldn't you also be blind and everybody else if you are benefiting? Because in our own jurisdiction, a lot of the times when you have certain laws or rules or whatever, when it is benefiting us, we don't find any problem with it. Is that not correct?
We understand, but true,
is that not
it
correct?
It's selfish. It's selfishness.
So what's your point?
My point is that you have to understand where we are. And when I say we, I'm talking about the West. And who rules the West, and ultimately, who rules the world? Putin is helping Sanders. Putin alleged, let me say alleged. Putin is allegedly helping Trump, and Trump is going to accept the help because it benefits him. Sanders wants to help, although he's going to push back to make people think, well, I'm not a Trump.
How did he push back?
By saying, Mr. Putin, stay out of American politics. We don't want your help. We don't.
So, in other words, if Trump were to say, Mr. Putin, but remember, Trump had told Putin that too. You remember? He told him that.
He didn't mean it.
You see, now you're going to. So, but Sanders meant it.
No.
So then what? So I just ask you what should be done, and you said.
Well, I'm saying to them that they do not understand the enormous amount of power and influence the country which they're trying to. One has headed the country, and one is attempting to get to that pyramid. And as they try to get there, they should understand the enormous amount of leverage and power they got globally, and use it. And tell them, boy, you're still 100 years behind us, behind the United States of America, and with all the other alliances.
But who is 100 years behind America?
We may not last long enough, but you'll see.
I'll just ask who.
Well, you know, I don't have to enumerate them. China.
China is 100 years behind the Americans?
Yes.
So okay then. So
you don't. You see
that
this, you see this,
that being said,
coronavirus?
that being said,
Look at it,
how do you,
the
that
GDP.
being said, Mr. Stanley, how do you see the race?
Honestly, it's a little muddy now, but I'll say this. Between Mike, who is it?
Bloomberg. Yeah.
Between Mike Bloomberg, well, we got the four men. Bloomberg, Biden, and we will know in the next 3 to 4 weeks where Biden stands. Because we must understand that this is the third try Biden is making for the presidency. Why has he failed twice before? And those are baggages that he has to carry.
Why is he failing now? Let's not look at it twice before.
He's failing now for a lot of reasons. Age, and he sometimes, well, he came up with
But when you say age, what do you mean? Because he is Biden, he should have been younger?
I'm just saying to you,
Yes.
age doesn't affect everybody the same way.
Oh, okay. All right. I got you. Go ahead.
But looking at it from the standpoint of
Age, I got that.
Bloomberg,
What else?
Trump and Sanders, we will see how the dust settles. Because,
So those are the reasons.
well, I would say this. Trump is banking on getting this war to an end in Afghanistan, which would be a trump card.
Yeah, but I'm speaking about the Democratic race.
Okay. The Democratic race is going to come now in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We will know where Biden stands. We will know also where Bloomberg stands. And we will know as to whether or not Sanders is going to transform the United States from a capitalist society into a socialist society.
How will he get it done?
If once he gets to the chair, high chair,
How is he going to, what's his pathway there,
his
Sanders?
pathway there, we are not sure. We're not sure. We know he got a group of young people following him. We know he got a group of moderates following him. We know he got a group of people who are contributing to his economic coffers, his political coffers. And at the same time, his message is resonating with some people. In my view, I think Biden should really get the nod, simply because.
So, okay, what of the view and the fact that Sanders is polling about the same that he was polling with Hillary, but it was only two people. Remember when Bloomberg wasn't in and the guy's tire hadn't spent $20 million in South Carolina and so on? It basically was two people. They were polling at the time. It was Sanders and Biden. And that is why Biden was clocking a 20-something point lead. If you realize, Sanders still holds on to his 20-30%, but Biden, and when Bloomberg comes in and gets 15, Biden moves from 30 to 20. I mean, from 40 to, and that's what's happening.
But we understand the math in that regard, and,
Okay.
and our interpretation. The real test or the proof of the pudding, when the votes are tallied in, I can't even think of the state right
South Carolina.
now. South Carolina.
Yes.
Because Biden was attempting to use this phrase that he's got all these black people who are going to vote for him. And those other candidates, Sanders, like you just mentioned, that his numbers remain the same. But if you look at the advent of Bloomberg and
Steyer spent.
They're taking some of some of Biden's votes.
Yeah, but what I
But
was.
we can't tell until the people have voted.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, we're speaking on what information we have at this point. And what I'm saying is, right, the Sanders gets 30% or whatever, and then because he's left, and the others who are saying that they're moderate, they're splitting up the 60%.
But we understand that, but at the same time, only one will emerge from among them. And once that one emerges, it means that the other two, wherever the support is, will galvanize behind this one, and then ultimately it will be one-on-one. Whether it's Biden
All right.
against Trump.
We're about to go to the meeting live. So who would like the last word?
I am hoping that these fellows attempting to call China and tell China, hey, look, you put the world into a tailspin, and you got to carry the cost. And then you will be able to determine where China is on the escalator in global affairs. Let China carry the cost of this problem that it has caused and brought into the world.
You know, this might be a light moment as we go. You know, you like to talk about. Oh, by the way, I was telling Edric, you know, one of the schools for Black History Month, they were doing a mimic of us, in part the Let's Talk program. So everybody, a little fellow, you know, people had a little girl had a tag mark, Dr. Bartlett, Dr. Patricia Bartlett. One had Naya, and he didn't have any hair locks though, you know what I'm saying? So I had to ask him, where your hair do? Anyway, but you know, the most fascinating one was a little fellow they had on a tag mark, Edric Stanley. So he said, you're Edric Stanley? He said, yeah, yes sir. They said so too, you know.
Well, that's very
And
nice.
I said, you have a lot of money? He told me not yet. So anyway,
That's very good.
that's very good.
Very good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
he-
pretty interesting.
He
Yeah.
told you not yet, and you know what it means?
Yeah.
It means that he is going to lazily focus.
If he's Edric Stanley, he better do.
You understand?
Yeah.
And if he listens to this show and follows, he ultimately will wind up there.
Okay. We will now join the national. Well, by the way, this program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Thank you all again for joining us. Please join us again next Tuesday at 7. We now join ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation to bring live coverage of the Teen Unity Government's Town Hall meeting, which is taking place in Central Basti at the McKnight Community Center.
Mighty God, this government, God, you will give them the capability and the capacity, Lord God, to lead us forward. Father,